Good morning, everybody. This is Dee Reinhardt with Illinois WorkNet, and on the call with me today I have Olivia Grisham. You want to say hello, Olivia?
Hi, everybody.
We're going to get started with our questions from the audience today. We have one person that had a question about the invitation process. So if you could type that into the chat pod for us, I would appreciate it. All right, so it looks like Williamson County is really in the Cubs' corner. Okay, while we're waiting for the question to come in, it looked like we had an intake dashboard question, but that seems to have gone away. But let's, Olivia, I've got my screen up, so why don't we talk a little bit about the intake dashboard while we're waiting for the invitation process question to come up. So this is live. This is production.
Do you want me to go through the areas that we need to make sure we're covering?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, Dee, can you make your screen a little bigger maybe? Or is that as big as it gets? Okay. Okay. So for the intake dashboard, there's a couple areas that we just need to make sure we're keeping up on and not letting customers get stuck or left behind in these areas. So one of the first areas that we need to keep an eye on is, Dee, could you scroll down just a little bit, is the customer profile information needs finished. Currently there's 0 people in there, so that's great. Just make sure if you do see some numbers in there, we're going in and trying to get that information put in and up to date because they won't flow through the dashboard until that step is completed. The second area on the dashboard we need to keep an eye on is ready for review by DHS caseworker under eligibility review. This just means that the customer is ready to go through the eligibility review process. They have attended orientation and submitted their application. And so we need to make sure we're getting in there and getting them through the eligibility review process. And then needs to be scheduled for consent or missed consent meetings down in the consent section. We need to make sure that customers are being scheduled and not missing these appointments. If they do miss them, we need to reschedule them and get them back in to get them through random assignment, or if they choose to decline to participate at that time, that's fine. We just need to make sure we're marking it and not leaving them just sitting in there. And then the last section on this intake dashboard is all the way down at the very bottom, not assigned to CBO. So we have 5 customers who have went through the whole orientation process, eligibility review, and random assignment, and were chosen to participate in the EPIC group. And now they just need to be assigned to their CBO so they can go and meet with them for their appointment. So we have 5 customers in there that we need to get assigned to make sure they're getting to that CBO. Do you guys have any questions on the dashboards? Are there any areas of the dashboard you're finding a lot of your customers are getting stuck in, mainly in the yellow sections?
And I just want to point out here that we have 1,169 customers in random assignment, which means we're 20% of the way to our goal of 5,000. Actually, we're a little bit more than 20% of the way. So this is good. We just need to keep plugging at it. Do you want to move on to the enrolled dashboard?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything on the enrolled dashboard we need to cover today because we still need to go through that consent process with DHS or conciliation.
Okay, all right.
So there's not much yet.
Let's just take a look at the intake projections. You guys all have access to this. So I don't know if you want to do a little bit of a friendly competition between your offices, kind of like the National League and the American League are doing right now. But we do have in here the ability for you all to see how each region is doing. So Region 1 is starting to climb. It's showing how many people are there. what we can do if we refresh my memory, Olivia, are we able to break this down by pod? No, I don't believe so.
No.
So, but you can go look at your numbers and see how many of these numbers are associated to your office. So as we're looking at this and going through, we can see Region 2 is really jumping. They're really close to their target line. We can see that Region 3 is starting to pick up. We can see that Region 4 is starting to climb as well. And we can see that Region 5 is going gangbusters, folks. Look at how this group is moving. So they're above their goal, and they're rocking and rolling. So this is something that you might want to come in and check on an infrequent basis, maybe once a month. You might want to come in and take a look to see how you are doing compared to the rest of the state. Okie doke. Let's take a look at, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hill, that's right. You can only see Region 1. So maybe what we'll do is we will show you this periodically on the webinar so that you can see comparatively how you're doing against the other regions. That's a good point. Thank you, Mr. Hill, for pointing that out. No, so now let's go to a intake activities page on a customer. One of the things that we're working on right now, we're waiting for some input from the DHS crew to give us their final tally on what we're going to actually be doing. Oops, I'm live, sorry. Let's go to production, I'm sorry, to test. And what we do on a customer who is in the system but maybe doesn't have their progress and their application filled out yet, so they're not moving forward. On the intake activities, what we are going to be doing is removing the option for decline to participate. That option is going away. But what we're going to do is we're going to be adding one more option under has not attended orientation, and that's going to be voluntary participant cannot be reached. Then we're adding some more options under attended orientation does not want to participate. Where I need you to put things is in that attended orientation does not want to participate, and we will be adding more options hopefully by the end of the month. But at this point in time, if you do not have a reason that is applicable in this section, attended orientation does not want to participate, until the time that we have the new options in, you may mark declines to participate. But if you mark declines to participate, you do need to add a case note up here as to why. Because after we get the new options up, Olivia and I will go in and clean up the dashboard based on your reasons, and we will mark the appropriate location. But if you do mark declines to participate, you need to come up here and add a case note that says perhaps customer reported a job and income will be budgeted. Customer is now exempt. So that will go in as an Illinois WorkNet message to the eligibility review team and the Illinois WorkNet team. Yes, Mr. Hill, we do plan on having an option for customers that are exempt. So add that case note. If you do not add a case note and I find them in the decline to participate, you will be getting an email from me or somebody else to make sure that we do get a case note, because we can't let these people get away so that you don't remember why they declined to participate. Okay, any questions about that? Oops, let's move this down a little bit. I can't catch the corner of that pod. There we go. All right. Okay, so the next item is the RIN and DHS case ID. We had 3 people this week who would not pull through to random assignment. And it was because when someone did the invitation, they selected the option for does not have a RIN or a case ID, and then they had never gone in and entered the RIN and case ID in this profile details section. They will not, the items will not sync, and you will not be able to get the assignment done if you do not have a RIN and case ID. We also had somebody that had no name information, nothing in there. I don't know how that got through the system, but there was somebody that was entered this week that did not have anything except for, what was it, Olivia, the DHS case ID.
Correct.
Cal Park, what do you mean by volunteers who don't have an active case? Voluntary participants, so like non-mandatory participants or mandatory participants who are exempt, who are volunteering, they have to be an active food stamps recipient or SNAP recipient. So if they don't have an active case, are they eligible for SNAP? That's what I kind of thought, Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill says that if it's not an active case, they are not eligible for ENT or EPIC. Okay. Okay. The other thing that we wanted to talk about, Olivia, was eligibility review. I'm going to go to one of those pages. Do you want to let me, I have to get into somebody who has a progress page.
Yeah.
All right, so now on their profile, under eligibility review, I know we talked about this last week or the week before. So, Olivia.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the issues we have been finding that we're running into is eligibility review and random assignment are not getting done. They're just getting put in EPIS and then sent to a CBO. And then when they get to that CBO, the CBO has no way to access their information because they haven't been completed in EPIC. So the way this process is supposed to go is they'll come in, they'll fill out their or they'll do orientation. If they choose to continue, they'll fill out their application, and then when they are going to come and meet with you guys. So when they come and meet with you guys and sit down to go through all this, we need to make sure that we're going through eligibility review with them and going over all the different training programs and checking the boxes for the programs that you're recommending for them. And then we also need to be sure that we're filling out the last steps before random assignment. A lot of these haven't been filled out because the information is just getting put into EPIS. And once their information is in EPIS, it locks this box. This whole box down at the bottom of eligibility review, the purpose of it is to see what you guys think is going to happen with this customer. Once they are put in EPIS, it's not applicable anymore because you already know what's going to happen. So you need to make sure that you're doing eligibility review before you're putting them into EPIS. That's the flow of how it works. Then you can get locked out of things if you go a step ahead and don't complete the step before. And we just don't want anybody to get locked out or anything to get messed up. And also, if they're not recommended for any programs and you put them into EPIS, that'll throw the study numbers off, and then Deidre will have to call and have them deleted out of there, because if they're not recommended for any programs, then there's no reason to determine if they're going to get put in EPIC, because there's no programs they can participate in. So we really have to make sure that we're doing every step in the correct order, so we can make sure that the customer only has to be there for that one trip and nothing's getting locked up or skipped. So then after you do EPIS, so you do eligibility review, do the last step before eligibility review, and then you'll put them into EPIS. After you put them into EPIS, you have to make sure you're clicking on the assignment tab. That's how it syncs EPIS with EPIC. So if you're just putting them into eligibility review and they get EPIC and you say, okay, you can go to your training program, but never click on the assignment tab, it's not going to download with EPIS. EPIC won't sync with EPIS to pull their information in. So we need to make sure we click on that assignment tab and finish that DHS contact and click Save, and then you can pull all the information they need, like their 2151 and all their CBO appointment information from there. Do you guys have any questions on how that process goes? Okay, I don't see anybody typing.
I don't either. I know that I had a couple of cases this week where I got phone calls, and all I had to do was click on the assignment tab, and the customer had synced. So it's very important that you guys follow these steps the right way.
And the customers get very upset when they go to the CBO, and the CBO is like, well, you're not in our system. We don't know who you are. And they have to leave and be rescheduled. And then they're really confused. So we just want to make this a very flowing, seamless process for the customers.
Exactly. All right. What else do we have on our agenda, Olivia?
Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to go over with you guys about communicating about the training programs to the customers. I think that's on the agenda.
Training program information, is that what's...
Yeah, about, we just have to make sure that we're letting the customers know that, so they may sign up for a 4-week training program, but that doesn't mean that they're going to go to the CBO appointment and start that 4-week training program that day. These training programs could be a month later, 2 weeks later, a couple months later. So we just need to make sure that we're letting the customers know, like, yes, you've been accepted into the CNA training program. You're going to go meet with your CBO, and they're going to get you ready to get started in that training program, but it's not going to start right away. Because a lot of the customers are getting to the CBO and expecting to start training that day, and they're really confused when they get there, and they're like, oh, well, training's in 2 weeks. So we need to make sure we're making it clear to the customers that they're not going to start training immediately when they get to the CBO.
And then I also wanted to show you that on the restricted resources page, what we've done is we've added, over here in the far right column, we've added the brochures and the website for each location. So if I click on any of the names of the companies, you will go to their website. And then if they've sent us a brochure about their programs, the brochure is below, and you can click there to actually get the brochure. So this is good information if once the customer has picked their program, they've been randomly assigned to EPIC, they've picked their program that they want to do, then you can go here and give them a brochure about the program. And then we're going to work on getting the program information updated in the in the actual training provider program information, so that when you print off that sheet for the customer, they will have a better description of what they can anticipate doing. All right, so I think we're done with our agenda. Did we ever get the question asked about the invitation process that someone had? I think it looks like it was from Michelle Truxa. So Michelle, if you have a question about the invitation process, please type that into the chat pod. And then if we can find, Olivia, if you want to find Christina Rucci's phone number in the calls, we'll open up Christina's microphone. Christina Rucci is from Asian Human Services. I'm going to pull up their website real quick here. And Christina, I apologize if I'm saying your last name wrong. Oh. Olivia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tina Rucci from Asian Human Services. So first, I just want to talk a little bit about what we do at Asian Human Services. We're here to provide job training, employment assistance, medical, mental health, housing, and education services to our clients. Our goal at IDHS is to help our clients all to become healthy, educated, and employed. Now, as far as our medical training, or as our EPIC training goes, that's a medical training focused on CNA. So we do a full orientation at our initial appointment with the client, going over everything as far as which type of medical training they're going to be doing. Now, customers have the option to choose from a couple different programs with us. The first one is specifically focused on CNA. So that is a 6-week training. The second one is CNA plus phlebotomy, which is a 14-week training. And then the last one, which so far most of our customers have chosen, is Patient Care Technician, or PCT. So that's a 20-week training that includes CNA, phlebotomy, and EKG. So that one, they get the most certifications. It's obviously a little bit longer, but it's more thorough, I think, is why most of our customers go for it. There is another option where if a customer came to us that already had a CNA certificate but wanted to add the phlebotomy and EKG so that they could be a certified patient care technician, we could enroll them in that as well. So they really have the choice of whatever they're looking for. Now, the school that we're partnering with is Chicago Community Learning Center, or CCLC. So we're located in Uptown, and CCLC has a couple different locations. Their Uptown location is actually right across the street from us, which is very convenient for us and our customers. And then there's another school that they have in Little Village. So the customers have the option of whichever one is closest or more convenient to them. CCLC has upwards of a 90% passing rate for the students when they take their state board exams. So that's really high. They really focus on, obviously getting them the completion certificates for their courses, but then also preparing them for that exam. The students will be in class for 2 days a week, and then they'll do their remaining activity hours online. CCLC has a computer lab and then an online website where all their assignments are done, their tests are taken, that kind of thing. And then as far as uniform goes, the CCLC will provide every student with a pair of scrubs that they'll use once they get to their clinical point. So that's part of CCLC's program. And then as I believe Olivia mentioned earlier, when the customers come to Asian Human Services and the training for CCLC doesn't start for a week or 2 weeks or whatever the case may be, we have some job skills training, resume work that we do with them. So we'll do the job readiness training, focus on some study skills, get their resume ready so that way when they're done with the training, they've got that stuff prepared and ready to go. And then CCLC has also given us some preparation materials that the students can work on before they actually enter the course too. So That's pretty much everything I've got for you guys. Does anyone have any questions about our program? Are you there?
Sorry, I had myself on mute. Mara Williams asked, do the Southerners need to stay on the rest of the call? And no, you guys do not. So thank you for joining us. I do not see any questions for you, Tina. One of the things that I'd like to know is, as far as placement, what do you do to help your trainees who have completed their training help with, as far as trying to help them through the interview process and all that kind of good stuff?
Well, so far, we haven't had anybody finish yet. We have a couple students who are finishing up at the end of this month. So, and I'm trying to really just personalize it as much as possible since we don't have a lot of customers so far. I want to just focus it based on what that specific customer needs. So whether it's interview practice, just going over things to remain confident before entering the interview, or specific questions that they think they might, have trouble with, just practicing those things. So we haven't quite gotten to that point yet, but we're working on developing those materials right now. And I want to make it as personalized as possible.
Do you also have some ESL programs at your facility, or am I confusing you with one of the other CBOs in Chicago that starts with the letter A?
No, we do have ESL classes, ESL and computer classes actually. So it's at a different office, but it's part of Asian Human Services.
I thought that was you guys. So what are the computer classes that you're offering?
So there's 4 levels, basic to advanced. The advanced computer class actually focuses on job skills training as well. They do a lot of resume work. They are required to do a certain amount of job searches every week. They do interview practice in that class. So the first 3 classes are basically just getting them brushing up on computer stuff in the basic class, and then working on Microsoft Office. And then level 3 is a marketing course, so graphics tools and that kind of thing. And then again, the advanced class focuses on computers for job searching and then actual job skills training.
Great. I keep putting myself on mute. Have you, you have not sent us a brochure for your programs. So can you please make sure that you send us one so that we can add that to our restricted resources page for the DHS staff to use?
Absolutely.
And then you said the one program that I'm the most interested in you telling a little bit more about is the 20-week program where they get the multiple certifications.
Yes. So the way that works, it's actually worked a little bit differently for each of our customers that have enrolled in that training program. It kind of just, it's just based on whichever, because they filter through the classes at CCLC. So it's like a rolling basis. And if the customer enrolls with us when CCLC is preparing for a phlebotomy class, then they'll get enrolled in that first. And so it doesn't really affect the program if they do the phlebotomy first or EKG or CNA. We just try to get them started as soon as possible.
And the patient care technician is actually a much more versatile position than just a regular CNA, right? Because they can do blood, they can do all kinds of stuff.
Yep, they can do the CNA, they can do the phlebotomy, which is drawing the blood, and then the EKG test they can set up for patients. So patient care technician, again, I think if the customer is willing to commit to 20 weeks, it's definitely the one that we're pushing for them to go for, because they're going to have such a better chance of getting a job with that certificate.
I did it again. I'm saying right. I'm trying not to make noise in the background here.
No, that's okay.
Where are, now, okay, so we do have a question from our audience. Are you working with regular SNAP ENT customers or just the EPIC customers right now?
We're doing both.
Okay.
And I'm a case manager for the regular SNAP program as well, so I can be contacted for, if somebody has questions about that later on down the road.
Okay. And you're located where?
We are in Uptown on the corner of Lawrence and Broadway.
Okay, so for Cal Park, it would be a haul for somebody to get up there from the Cal Park office.
I'm not so familiar with the city of Chicago. Is that in the city, or is that?
They're south. They're
Okay.
like down at 119th and
Okay.
Harlem, I think, somewhere down there pretty far.
Okay, so yeah, that would be quite a hike.
All right, yeah. Okay, I don't see any other questions from the audience. I do like the fact that you're giving them some office skills training as well as the healthcare field training. So that's some great information that the customers are learning. So I don't see any other questions. So we are going to move on. Thank you very much, Tina Rucci from Asian Human Services. We're going to move on to Margaret, and we're trying to figure out.
I have a number that I think is hers, but
Okay.
it's the last 4 aren't right, but the first 6 are the same. So I'm going to try unmuting it, and we'll see if it's her.
Okay.
Hi, this is Margaret.
Yay!
Hi, awesome.
Hi, Margaret
Hello.
Haywood from Inspiration Corporation.
Hello. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. Why don't you tell us about your program?
Sure. So we have a 13-week food service program. A couple of things I'd like you to know about the food service industry. One, the reason we chose this as a direction to go with people who are trying to get back into the workforce is it truly still is one of the fields where people can do that American dream thing of you can start at the bottom and work your way up to the top. There are executive chefs out there who started as the dishwasher, and you can do that without an expensive educational intervention. Chicago has some great culinary schools. You can go that route. Kendall College, nationally recognized, certainly. However, you can get some of the same things if you manage your career carefully. So not to say this is easy. There are definitely people who get stuck at that entry level. But if you're willing to work and hustle and do some learning on your own time and manage your career, you can get these same experiences. So you have to make sure you work at a French place and an Italian place and at a steakhouse and get a different experience that way. Many years ago, we had the opportunity when Charlie Trotter's, people may still remember that, was open to go there for a nice dinner. It was definitely one of the best places in Chicago for those who aren't familiar. And some of their staff came out to talk to us. And the woman who was the baker there told us that she had learned to bake at a previous job, not by going to culinary school, but she wanted to bake. So before her shift, before she punched in, she would go in and work with the baker, and that's how she learned everything. She helped them. She asked a lot of questions, and so some people might see that as like, well, I don't want to be, a chump and work for free, but again, that's your time you're investing instead of paying to go to culinary school, which is extremely expensive. So that opportunity is there for people to move up. The other thing I would say is we do have a 75% job placement rate. That's been true pretty much all the time I've been here, which is since 2002. And the 25% who don't get a job didn't look. I never use the word guarantee with our participants because you still have to go out on the interview and sell yourself. And we do set up interviews. We have employers who've hired people from us before. They know what our graduates are like. They know what their basic skills are. But so if you go on the interviews we set up and look on your own, you're going to get a job. Like I said, that 25% who haven't historically, it's because they went on one job interview and were like, okay, I think I'm going to go to truck driving school now because that didn't work out, or they decide to move to Chattanooga or whatever. The other thing on the sort of for helping people evaluate these types of jobs is, plus side, you can get ahead without paying a lot of money to go to culinary school. Downside, we've all seen the TV shows, you have to have a thick skin in this industry. You got to be able to deal with public criticism. The chef isn't going to take you aside to talk to you. They're going to say, hey, that's not right, do it again. And you just have to be able to get back to work and do that and not get caught up in why the chef hates you or doesn't hate you or whatever. So people do have to be a little thick-skinned to put up with some of the stresses of the industry. It's also physically demanding, the standing for long periods of time. Kitchens are all too hot. They're too crowded. People get on your last nerve. You have to be able to deal with all of that. We talk about all of this in the orientations and then during the program, helping people prepare themselves not only in the vocational skills, but emotionally for the work. Other thing I would say is one of the things that makes this program exciting is that the students are doing their learning in a real restaurant. Somebody here said they'd been to our place in Garfield Park. Thank you very much. I can say this without ego because I don't create the menus or the recipes, that our food is very good. The chef does a great job with that. So the students are involved in making all the food that comes out of that kitchen. They're not just standing there watching a chef do things. They're doing it. They start with the most simple task of cutting things up for soup and salad and graduate up to working on the line where they're actually putting together the final product that goes out for the customers. So this is not just theoretical. They're really learning about what it's like to work in a restaurant, the stresses of that, in addition to learning the technical skills. So just on the more detailed side, we do take applications every week. We're looking for some basic math and English, but we don't require a high school diploma. We also do not drug screen for people who have concerns on that. We go on behavior rather than the tests. If you know the difference between Saturday night and Monday morning, and it never becomes an issue, then that's all we are concerned about. We do allow people to take our math and English tests multiple times. We don't consider that as a strike against you. On the contrary, we would think that shows great stick-to-itiveness. If you're willing to come in and take a math test a second time, you must be serious. So that's some of the basics about our program. And we do take people with felonies. I see that question.
Good,
yeah.
Good.
We don't have any limitations on that. Really, we're looking for, can you physically do this work? Can you emotionally do this work? And do you have some basic reading skills so you can read a recipe by yourself to work independently? And then the math is really, if I need you to cut a recipe in half or double or triple it, can you do that simple math? So we're really looking at performance-based things, not, particular felonies, particular types of drug use, et cetera.
Great. Now, you said your program is how long?
It's 13 weeks.
And does that come with the food and the food and sanitation?
So there's 2 certificates people get. Everybody, in the first few weeks, they'll get the food handler certificate. Everybody in a restaurant is required to have one of those right now, whether you are making food in the kitchen or just serving it out front. And then we hold back for people who have completed the program the food service sanitation manager certificate. It's a higher level of information that's required. It's a more expensive certificate. Part of that is to just encourage people to get through the program, to get through to that certificate. And we have had a problem in the past with people, rather than spending $300 to go somewhere, which you can do just to get that sanitation certificate, will want to take our whole 13-week program because it's free, and that we don't want people to do. Our location is at 3504 West Lake Street, which is East Garfield Park. It is accessible by public transportation.
Do you have, now, I noticed that Tamakisha, I probably just butchered her first name, I apologize. Tamakisha says that she eats the Garfield location frequently. Is there more than one?
We did have a location in Uptown, but we had to close that earlier this year. So right now, the only place the food service training takes place is in Garfield Park.
Tamakisha's upset.
Yeah, so I see.
And then let's see. Where are some of the places where your students may have been placed, and do you work with regular SNAP ENT?
Yeah, we will work with people who are not part of EPIC. Certainly, we'll take all referrals.
You already have a contract with SNAP?
We don't.
Okay, so then they would have to set that up with you.
Yeah. So we just recently had somebody who got hired by Who's Your Mama, if you're familiar with their pies. Very good. We've gotten people placed at Italy and Mastro's Steakhouse. I'm trying to think where else people have gotten a job recently. We do also hire some of our own graduates, and pretty much all our graduates are able to do a transitional job. So in addition to the 13 weeks, they can work for us or for another employer for 4 weeks in a transitional job. That money is paid not through our EPIC grant, but through the City of Chicago.
Nice.
And that allows an employer to sort of check them out for a period of time to see if they want to hire them. And generally, when people do one of those transitional jobs with another employer, they wind up getting hired because the employer can see they know what they're doing.
So is that the workplace experience component of the EPIC program, basically?
Yeah.
Or would you be doing something different with that?
Well, they do. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by the difference. When we say transitional job, they're working up to 40 hours a week. They're paid minimum wage.
Okay, so that's actually like an internship, basically, rather than the work site experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Rosalind is asking about if you could repeat the 2 certifications and the distinctions in requirements.
Sure. The food handler certificate is something that everybody who works in a restaurant has to have now in the state of Illinois. It's you can do it online. It does not take very long to learn the information. It's pretty basic. It costs like $12 or something like that. The Food Service Sanitation Manager Certificate is a much more involved level of information. You have to learn, for example, the Latin names of all different kinds of foodborne illnesses like listeria and shigellosis and that kind of thing. That costs $35 as opposed to the $12. You also have to be it has to be done by a certified instructor from somebody who's been certified by the state of Illinois to provide that class. So you can't just get a book, and study it on your own and take that test. The class has to be offered by a instructor approved by the state of Illinois, so we bring in somebody to do that. And so that is a certificate not everybody has to have in a restaurant, but every kind of food service establishment has to have at least one person present on every shift who has that manager's sanitation certificate. So that's the difference.
Dee, are you still there?
Oh, I was on mute again. Tina, if you're still on the call, I know your microphone's probably been cut off, but could you type in there in the chat pod what your background requirements are for your customers who participate? Do we have any other questions for Margaret about Inspiration Corporation? And right now, Margaret, you're only doing the food program, correct?
That's the only thing we're doing through EPIC. We also have a program for just to teach job hunting and soft skills. If people don't want to do food service, they can come in for that program. So if somebody came in and for some reason was not eligible for the food service, we could offer that as an option. If they bombed out of the food service for some reason, or it turned out they couldn't stand for long periods, we could tell them, well, you can just do this. You've got the soft skills part of the class, so we can still help you with looking for a job in another field.
Where do you got some sirens going by. Where do the culinary trainers and teachers come from for your program?
They are people who have worked in the industry before that we hire. They're not just contractors that we bring in. They're on staff.
Okay. Do you ever have any guest instructors like maybe Rick Bayless or any of those really nice people that come in?
We haven't done that much. We have found in the past that often the constraints of their own business will trump their interest in, if they're scheduled to come in and teach for us, but then something happens back at the shop, they need to go pay attention to that.
Oh, okay. All right. That would be really cool, though, if you had it.
Yes.
All right. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions signature room. There's a question about signature room.
We did get somebody placed there once. We haven't had anybody. Actually, we may have had an instructor who worked there many, many years ago.
All right. All right. So great information from both Asian Human Services and Inspiration Corporation. And I'm anxious to get down to the Garfield location and test out your kitchen one of these days when I'm in the city doing a visit for some of the offices. So thank you very much, everybody.
Come on down. Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other questions about anything. If you do have questions, please feel free to send them to epic@illinoisworknet.com. And everybody have a great weekend. And go Cubs!